Okay, anyway, how are you today? Okay, thank you. I always make one or two mistakes. Today, no camera following me because of my stupid computer got infected by malware. So over the weekend, I decided to wipe everything out and then reinstall everything. And in the meantime, I forgot installing one important firmware for this camera. So today, probably, yeah, improvised another option which still show my ugly face will be there in today's recordings, but it will not be as exciting as this one, so bear with me. So the other thing is, well, our class got a little bit more crowded because of some administrative shift in this class. One other session of this understanding life science class has been canceled, so I had to take as many students as possible if they want to sneak into this classroom. So if it turns out that too many students within this tiny room, so we need a more spacious room, then probably I will try to switch the classroom, to a bigger classroom if that's available later on. Okay? So in the meantime, you just give me a feedback. Hey, this is suffocating. So I cannot stand with this small tiny room. So do something about if you are really not satisfied with this room. Otherwise, okay, then I will just take it. Okay, so far so good. So no need to change the room. Then I will take that as a kind of message. Okay, so last week I stopped at this point before we go over the definition of a species concept. Everyone, almost everyone, kind of knows what species is, the definition, because at least we are able to distinguish us from some other species like chimpanzee, dogs, or plants, which are all the examples of different species which are different from us. Then what is the drawing line between two different species is the topic. So for example, these two different eagles, are they members of the same species or two different species? What do you think? One is that proud symbol of one country called the United States of America. And the other one lives in Africa. But to me, they look like all the same. So what do you think? Do we consider them as the members of the same species or not? Why not? And eagles will eat other meats other than, so simply based upon different preferences for the diet, we can separate two different species. So that means Americans and us are two different species because we have obviously different diet preferences. So is that so? Yes? So from now on, I will declare that we are totally different species from those Americans. So go home, all Americans. Is there any Americans sitting here? Luckily not, okay. So yes, you're right, actually. These two eagles, they do belong to two separate different species, but not because of the reason that you mentioned, but something that, the other reasons that we are going to reveal. What about they? Are they? This is a totally different end of the problem, to me at least. So like all these different characteristic, distinct but still beautiful faces represent so much differences, but they are all the members, as we all know. These are all humans. Means the members of same single species, which is we call scientifically Homo sapiens. So what is the criteria that we distinguish these two different species? On basis of what? Anybody? It looks like we shouldn't practice this separation simply based upon some of the appearances, after all, because they look so different, but they are the same species. They look so similar, undistinguishable at least to me, but they are totally different two species. What is this? The reason being is the same thing is true. All these, they look like dog-like different species of animals. But on the other hand, side of the spectrum, all different breeds of dogs, they are all derived from single common ancestor, which is wolf. But still, all these different breeds, including the gray wolf, are actually considered to be the members of the same species. How and why? It's this concept. Although there are kind of several other different definitions, different versions of species concept we can try, but this so-called biological species that concept, which is the most popular especially in the animal field, okay, and most widespread. So most of the scientists adapt to use this definition, this concept, to distinguish different species, and which is based upon this particular thing, whether they can interbreed or not. Like, if we, for some reason, if we can mate with chimpanzee and produce, even trying to think of it, that's just yucky. If we can produce viable offspring, children, then chimpanzee and us, no matter how different we may look, then we are within the category of the same species. If not, then that's very conveniently we can say, oh, you and I are different, whether we can interbreed or not. So, any group of organisms within which they can freely mate and reproduce offspring, but one condition, that the produced children should be able to do the same. One particular notable example, anybody? Horse and donkey can be forced to mate, but the production, the result between the hybrid, which is mule, is sterile. So the mule cannot reproduce. That's the end. So that's why the donkey and horse cannot be considered as members of the same species. So that's simple. Whether can you do this? Can you marry me and produce children? Then you and I are the same, like members of the same species. If not, no matter what, just finished. But from some kind of a sort of gray area, of course, you can observe here and there. For example, tiger and lion, right? Yeah, obviously, they don't. In nature, they don't mate to each other. But in the captive condition, we can force them to mate, and for some occasions, they can actually produce a viable offspring. the hybrid between tiger and lion can still be able to, can still produce the cubs. So that could be a kind of like a gray area exceptions. But that's because even long before we kind of come up with this species definition, biological species definition, the tiger and lions have been separated geographically. And so they didn't have any occasion to be encountered with, and there are like so much differences in terms of their, like what they eat and what they like. So, one lion, so a tiger, they don't even think about like attempt to have any such population activity. That's why the habitual, social and habitual separation because of the geography has made these two otherwise biologically capable two members made them separated as two independent species. That's kind of exception. So anyway, so by such a biological species definition, we have so many different species on Earth. And like I mentioned earlier briefly, this species, the number of species, the nature, is so dynamic that it doesn't stay the same. Okay? It may have, at one time point, it may have started with certain numbers, but it will fluctuate. Under certain condition, it may like rapidly increase the number of species. But on the other hand, under certain different condition, environmental condition, the number of different species will decrease, dwindle so drastically, depending on. So this is the record. So like species, total different number of species, whole different species, the organisms divided, separated as different species, have undergone several incidences of so-called mass extinction, as you saw in the history of this Earth. So definitely the next one will come again. It's just a matter of time. We don't know when. It could be sooner than we hope, or it could be like later than we might have anticipated. But one thing for sure. So far we have such 5 major extinction events, each of which like resulted in huge. For example, look at this. All those one particular mass extinction event wiped out 95% of the entire livings on Earth. And only the 5% of those little minor survivors started all over again. And then, boom, widespread, produced so many diversity again. So it is just a simple nature. Life will generate diversity, different things. And then all of a sudden, maybe, we don't know, God, so, hey, it's true. Again, so many mess, I don't like it, so I will wipe them up. Okay, so species got extinct. For example, like 80% are gone, and then started all over again, like that. So 6 extinction will definitely come. But one thing, almost all the scientists agree on the nature of the next extinction we call the 6th extinction that will be on us. We are the one who will be responsible for this event. Who are you? Okay, I will ignore. I don't know you. Okay, so that means we are doing a lot of bad things on this environment. We actually in these days we feel that all these different climate changes and the aftermath that we suffer from the result of our human activity mostly is what we have come to the conclusion. So, briefly mentioned the species concept within which the actual what is the basis criteria of separating two different organisms into two different categories of species, which is what? Now, reproductive isolation. If one individual is reproductively isolated or separated or blocked from the other, then these two individuals are the members of the two different species. Get it? Okay. It's not that difficult concept to grasp. So now, turning the pages into different things. So actually, this is the most important theme of the first chapter of the lecture, that is to discuss about the common characteristics of life. Here, 7 such things are listed, like complex organization, metabolism, response to external stimuli, blah, 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 then evolution, 7. But one thing is, if you really diligently scan or research different versions of different textbook, biology textbook, you may soon find that actually there's the number, the kinds and the characters of so-called the common characteristics of life is not something that identical all across the different version of the textbook. So this is one of the most popular version, what most of the larger number of the scientists have agreed on. So some different scientists may have a different idea about this. So that means what? Each individual per se, the complex organization, metabolism per se. So like in the context of, hey, what is the common characteristic of life? 7 characteristics. Remember, starting from 1 to 7 like this is totally useless, unimportant. This, whatever the list, is not even something that every scientist has agreed. Okay. So what's the point? Then what do you think that important, actual real importance of going over this common, so-called common characteristics of life? Think. Where is my coffee? Oh, okay. So, what? Would you like to say something? Please. Sometimes I actually try to put a little reward if you are actually participating and then have a correct answer to my any question, then I'd be glad to give you like 1 or 2 points towards the total. So that, if that's kind of serves as a little motivation for you to actively participate in this class discussion, which I value the most in this classroom environment. Anyway, so each of these, first of all, why then, you may wonder, why on earth, like you said, life is whole diverse? Yeah, all different life forms are so different, so much different. Even within a single same human species, here in this classroom, not a single identical characteristic, anyone features. We cannot. Everyone looks different. Everyone thinks different. Everyone behaves different. So life, actually, the most striking characteristic of all entire life on Earth is diversity. They are all so different. And what is this? And why do they have like this big common, no matter how different they are, everyone, every living thing on earth will share these 7 categories of characteristics. Is the point. Why is that so? The reason, understanding, oh, because of the history, or maybe because of this, then they should have at least these, whatever, 7 or 8, whatever, or 5 sometimes, this basic common characteristic they should carry as a common thing. It's the important concept that we need to carry on. Okay. So, what's this? Oh, okay, I see. I get it. Life starts with complex organization. That's the starting point of all life. Complex organization, which we call what? The life starting point that characteristically bears the complex organizational feature that we happen to call is what? Yeah, exactly, cell. Thank you. So, yeah, cell is the starting point, and that nature by nature cell is highly complex. No matter how simple that organism is, like a bacteria, so simple, primitive, but have you ever seen and take a good look at any single bacterium? It is really, really highly complex in nature. Amoeba, also another, very complex. But usually we regard those little creatures as highly simple and primitive. The point is, even so highly primitive and simple organisms are actually indeed highly complexly organized, so to speak. So that's the cell. And once you establish a cell, every cell's ultimate objective, ultimate utopia, whatever, ultimate goal to achieve is this. They want to live forever. I don't understand why. No matter where, no matter how different organisms you look at, everybody, including animals and plants and bacteria, they all want to live forever. In reality, of course, nobody can do this. Then what's the other option? If you can't do this, what's the other option? To reach this goal. You soon realize, hey, I thought I could live at least something like 40,000 years. Oh, shoot. It's a shame. Yes, exactly, reproduce. So I cannot live 40,000 years? Damn. Then what am I going to do? Reproduce. Okay. So that's why. What's the importance of reproduction toward this goal? You can still continue on because reproduction, the essence of reproduction is what? Transmitting your essence. What is your essence? Gene. Your essence onto the next generation and after generation. So, in other words, the fact that we breed in this particular space right at this moment means we are at least up until now, starting from whatever, wherever, whenever, we don't know, but let's say starting from 2 or 3 billion years ago, starting from, we are living actually forever up until now. We are lucky, we've been lucky enough to still maintain our lives starting from that. Although the difference is that we simply switched the vehicle to carry our original gene. So that's how we can view this. So everyone wants to live forever. Okay, there is a way you reproduce. Okay, either like asexually or sexually. It doesn't matter. It's your choice. Like you efficiently reproduce by simply keep dividing and dividing like bacteria. Yeah, that's one way. Very good, efficient, economic way. Or you can try a little like more fancy way of reproduction, like sexual reproduction. Like you try to find your mate, and then reproduce, like we do. Yeah, that's another option. Okay. But anyway, so this gene is the one made us to go through this trouble of reproduction. The gene's nature, they just want to reproduce. And actually, the mechanical way of reproduction is what? How do we achieve this reproduction? In other words, the reproduction's essence, the ultimate goal is transmitting our gene to the next. Continuing the existence of our gene is the objective of this reproduction. But how? How is it carried out practically, reproduction? Did you? The actual way of reproduction. It's simple. Everyone knows. This reproduction through cell division. You divide, one cell become two cells become four, and also one cell will try to fuse with another cell, which is through in the event of sexual reproduction, like your gametes, like your sperm and eggs combine together, and then afterwards, what do? You keep doing this the cell division. So cell division, and every event of a cell division, variation happens. Why? The genes, the nature of this gene is so ridiculous that they simply create automatically these variations through what? Mutation. Oh, shoot. This is my handwriting. Mutation. Mutation is a source, ultimate source of all the variation at the genetic level. And why do we have mutation spontaneously? So you don't, in order to have a mutation, you don't really have to do something special like or like a suntan every day, or like try to live just a nearby nuclear power plant. You don't have to do anything like that. Or drink some nasty drink every day, drink alcohol, a huge amount of alcohol every day, kind of stuff, of course, will rapidly increase the rate of mutation. But even without such thing, mutation will occur. At every cell division event, mutation occurs. That's nature. Okay? Don't ask me more. Then I will become crazy and try to explain all these different cell division and DNA replication mechanism through which why mutation will occur until the end of the today's class. Okay, so you don't want that. So anyway, mutation happens. Just like something happens, mutation happens. So these mutations, in other words, if you the more you go through this cell division event and higher the mutation rate, the higher mutation rate or the higher number of mutation event will you accumulate in your genes. And one beauty is this mutation will occur randomly and spontaneously. So that means in each different individual, the location, specific location of your entire the genetic area, genetic field will be totally quite unique and different. That's why every one of us looks so different and think different. That's a blessing, actually. So mutation will occur randomly, spontaneously in every different individual, which will create variation. Yes. So then what? So this whole trend, this stupid event of reproduction through cell division will continue. Like for several billion years that has been maintained. Then what? What's going to happen next? Evolution occur? Why and how? What do you mean evolution here? Why this mutation? I mean, yes. Hmm. Do you have a lot of stuff today brought you to pack today? No? So it's very simple. You just stand up and go out of the classroom. You don't need to stay here. Okay. Or maybe you want to come up and then take over the lecture today. Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. So this variation is the kind of a really playground for the nature, Mother Nature. The environment will change. Environment doesn't stay the same. Environment will change and all this variation, not all this variation will be able to fit in to specific environmental condition. So environment will select reluctantly. Environment doesn't have any preferences, who cares? But simply all this, the component, okay, under certain specific environment, not everyone. So here the key is reproductive success. Some individual who can display a better adaptation to a specific environment will be able to achieve this higher reproductive success. What do you get? If you have higher advantage in reproductive success, then what do you get in return? Five points in the finals? No. So what do you get? What do you get as a reward? You remain more frequency of your genes. Reproductive success. You produce more offspring of your genes. So eventually, if you are highly successful, then you may be able to wipe every individual eventually with your gene. And every different individual will carry at least part of your gene. Then that is labeled as a huge success. Then in a group, what does that mean? That's an evolution. Remember, I mentioned that evolution always occurs at the population level, species level. So once that happened, then we call that, oh, evolution has happened. When some specific character, some specific trait dominate all this entire population of species. So up until to the point of creating new species. Because of this event, eventually whole new species has emerged. What do you mean? This species will, from now on, be different from the rest of others who didn't have this evolution. So this species will not be able to exchange their gene with the rest. Reproductive barrier, that species definition, reproductive barrier is a species definition, has that significance. Because between two different species, reproductive barrier exists, gene cannot cross. If you develop some specific trait, that trait is the result of a different mutation in particular gene. That gene cannot go across this species barrier. So that gene, particular trait, will stay within only this population, which is a species. Okay? So that's how evolution, by we call natural what? Natural selection, right? That's how it works. Great. It doesn't have an eraser function, this stupid thing. So I have to keep undoing. So that's what this whole group, entire group to which any individual belongs to. The business of such group-wise matters. But what about individual basis? Every individual belongs to a specific group or species. And as a tiny, minor member, what do I do? What can I do? For individual aspect, who cares about the revolution? I just want to survive. Survival is the only concern for any individual. So to do so, every individual has to take care of this particular activity, which is called the metabolism. Can anyone give a correct definition of metabolism? Because metabolism is also very popular vocabulary. So I'm just kind of interested in how many of you here. Actually, yes, again? Yeah. Energy, food. Well, yeah, kind of you're right, but that is not the actual correct definition of metabolism, but inevitably metabolism. Every metabolism involves this energy transaction like you have mentioned. So mechanical verbal definition of metabolism is all the different chemical reactions occurring in life. So if that particular chemical reaction occurs on the chemistry classroom bench, we don't call that as metabolism. But if that same chemical reaction occurs inside of a living cell, living organism, then we call that as a metabolism. So chemical reactions, all those chemical reactions happening in the living organisms is the definition of metabolism. And then we have to question what? Why? Why do we have had this kind of a chemical reaction? I hate chemistry. Why chemistry bothers me even inside of me? That's the question, and the answer is energy. Okay? Do you want to survive? Do you want to live? Then you have to get the energy. How are you going to get the energy? Because energy, you cannot get energy free. You have to pay the price. Because there is some kind of sophisticated looking physical law, something called law of thermodynamics. There are two. The first law of thermodynamics states that you cannot create any energy, nor can you destroy any energy or spend energy. Energy, total amount of energy on the entire universe will stay the same exactly. And that's what this so-called the first law of thermodynamics. That famous law of thermodynamics states. So you're not God, Almighty God. So if you want energy, then you have to get the energy from somebody else. So energy can only be transferred from one place to the other in changing colors, changing forms, so to speak. So that's what it is. So in other words, the food is your source of energy. By breaking down the food molecule into smaller pieces, then it will generate, it is supposed to generate energy hidden in that whole chunk, the bunch of this food molecule. Then we extract that energy to use in any other events. Okay. So that's what the metabolism. So there are two different versions of metabolism that we are going to take a look at later. But for now, simply let's just finish defining metabolism, because there are some other things that we need to take care of. And another thing as an individual basis to take good care of, is responding to outside environment. We call those responding to outside the stimulus, which is a singular, stimuli is a plural. So all kinds of different environmental signals are perceived as some kind of different stimuli, right? In other words, hi, how many food molecules available outside of this particular cell? How many sugars are there? What's the temperature outside? All kinds of different environmental signal we have to sense. Why? Otherwise, you're gonna get killed soon. Survival. Until this event comes, you have to remain alive, okay, so that you can at least participate in this contest of what we call natural selection. Okay? Everyone wants to live to get here. Then means you have to survive. So in order to do so, at least these two things is the kind of bare minimum that you need to at least fulfill everyone. The last thing about it as an individual, like homework to finish, is something called the homeostasis. The homeostasis is something kind of unique, subtly different from this responding to different environmental signal stimuli. Common thing under this response to stimuli and homeostasis is all, both of them are against to the changing environment, changing outside environment. Okay. But one thing, the responding to stimuli is trying to adapt to the changed environment, so that, okay, if we sense the lack of food molecules outside, then we have to save our food inside, kind of a signal, and then the decision-making procedure will follow. However, in here, homeostasis, even though outside environmental changes, but we have, as a living individual, whatever you are, you have some kind of specific integrity to keep. That's something that you need to keep constant, that condition. That's achieved through this so-called homeostasis. So maintaining a specific, several conditions constant, which means within the same range, constant, same, even under the changing environment, is the definition of the homeostasis. Later, we are going to take a little more detailed look at the nature of homeostasis in this chapter. Okay. But these three are the really very important three activities that every individual has to take good care of in order for them to be able to survive. Then they can remain survive, and these all different activities will also change to see some improvement or increase in their rate of something like reproductive success rate. And so individually they can enter this drawing of natural selection. Then every those individual, they will compete and nature select, and the gene, depending on the result, winner and loser, and the winner's gene will dominate, eventually become a dominant representative of a particular species to create new species. That's the end. And then you will keep doing this until you finally realize, hey, there's no such a thing like living forever. Oh, this is whole BS. Life is just a joke. Okay, let's go home. Until then, you just simply keep doing it. That's the nature. And so what's the point of this? So that explains. Do you think that I have somehow explained under this theme or scheme all these different life so-called common characteristics? Why you get to see all of these different common characteristics no matter who you are as a living organism? And more importantly, what's the relationship among these so-called characteristics? Like you are able to connect each different component of this like common characteristics rather than simply you view as a simple boring list of 7 things. But these 7 different characteristics have this type of interactive relationship. And because they are involved in this aspect, that's why every one of us need to carry these characteristics. Okay. So, beginning from metabolism, quickly try to pinpoint some of the important aspects of each different characteristics. Actually, the entire curriculum of biology, like general biology, has been organized into this scheme. You start learning internal different structure of a cell, and then you move on to the metabolism, then you go on to the genetics aspect, and all the different life characteristics in detail you are studying through the entire yearly course of general biology. This is what it is, actually. So, this energy transactions that is associated with the metabolism has 2 different orientation. Either one type of metabolism will gives off the energy as a result of this chemical reaction. And the other one is, if you want to start this type of metabolism, then you have to provide, in the beginning, you have to provide the energy from outside. Otherwise, it won't go. 2 different types of chemical reaction. One is called catabolism, breaking down from relatively complex, bigger molecules like glucose, relatively more complex than carbon dioxide or water, if you compare. So starting from glucose, that is actually one example of such a food that you might have had at lunch today, something. So the reason why you had to eat food is the food contains a lot of such glucose molecule. Then those is different glucose molecules. Glucose molecules by definition is what? Technically speaking, glucose molecule is what? Yeah, organic. Food, organic, macro, they all come together. Food, why food has to be always organic? Because organic can only become complex. Then food, the function of food is to provide us with energy. How do we get the energy from food? By breaking them down into smaller pieces like this. Then what happens? Then energy will be generated. Here actually energy, and I put in parentheses ATP, but that is not actually correct explanation, but simply when energy is released from this glucose food molecule, then we convert that energy into ATP by synthesizing the ATP from. Later I will get to that more on this. And the opposite direction of this metabolism, called anabolism, is going totally opposite from starting from simple molecule like the carbon dioxide. Remember, carbon dioxide, even though this carbon dioxide obviously contains carbon, so should we call it as an organic molecule? No, it's not. Okay, so it is one rare exception that even a carbon-containing molecule but we don't regard it as an organic molecule. So this simple inorganic molecule combined with another inorganic molecule, which is water, then try to make complex a molecule of glucose. Like, that's just magic. How can you do that? That's impossible. Why is it impossible? Because this isn't easy. This reaction, all this catabolism, is an easy reaction we call, more correct definition of this type of reaction is, do I have this? No, later. This type of catabolisms we call that as a spontaneous reaction. It will happen on its own. Without doing anything, if you let it go, then forget about it, it will happen. Because that's the direction of this breaking down a complex molecule into simple one is a natural way of doing so. So without doing anything, it will happen. That's the nature. Just like, okay, that's a very silly analogy, but just like water always flow from top to lower ground, bottom. That's a natural way. The chemical reaction, this catabolism will always happen. Eventually, okay, will happen. So that kind of reaction we call it as a spontaneous reaction. And this opposite direction, then you can imagine that could be what? Non-spontaneous reaction. It's not going to happen. It's not supposed to happen. Hey, you are going uphill. How can you do that? That's impossible energetically. So it's a non-spontaneous reaction that whole universe does not endorse. Whole universe doesn't allow, actually, to carry out this non-spontaneous anabolic reaction. But still, in reality, all kind of different anabolic reaction is occurring every day, everywhere. How? When someone says, hey, you're not supposed to do that, you can't, that's against the law, then what do you do? Oh, okay, never mind. Is that your reaction? Or what? Oh, is that so? What's your natural reaction? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have shown this kind of bad example. Okay, but in reality, oh no, that's not what you're supposed to do. Okay, is that so? Okay, get this energy. By providing the energy, it will, the whole things can made happen. So there is actually more complex explanation is required. And if you will, then I'd be glad to elaborate more explanation, but probably not today. So anyway, bottom line is those anabolic non-spontaneous reaction can also be possible as long as you provide correct form of energy. And that's why actually, in order to produce ATP, you need to synthesize ATP because ATP is the standard form of energy for everybody, every life form. Then the synthetic procedure of ATP is actually anabolic reaction, non-spontaneous. So that's why you have to bring the energy and do this, provide this ATP synthesis. That's how you get ATP. And that is the reason why you eat. You have to eat. So anyway, so in the cell, all these things are constantly happening. This food, organic molecules, enter the cell, and the fate of all these food molecule will be broken down into small components through catabolic metabolism, okay? And as a result, energy is released. Okay? That's the purpose. What do you do? What do you want to do with this energy? You have to carry out this particular anabolic reaction because you have some agenda. Hey, I need to make some of the bigger compound starting from small little ingredient. You need to make this and that everything, okay, to maintain the whole complex structure of the cell. What did I say? Cell is a highly complex organization. Okay? In order to maintain, it takes money. Okay? Money is energy in biology. That's the relationship. So what is ATP anyway then? So ATP is a very special molecule containing a lot of energy in its particular chemical bond. The chemical bond, you break the chemical bond, then energy will be released. In other words, in order to establish the chemical bond, it takes energy. That energy is stored. Remember, energy doesn't go anywhere. Energy doesn't disappear. Energy simply is hiding there. The first law of thermodynamics, energy is not spent or nor destroyed or created. It's just there. You don't get to see, or you simply don't get to see a changed form of energy some occasions, but still energy is there. So ATP is a very good analogy. Personally, I believe it's kind of it behaves as a rechargeable battery. So when ATP is used up, then it becomes ADP, another molecule. It is a chemical structure of ATP. It's not really that complicated chemical structure. However, you don't have to memorize any of this particular structure. Simply ATP. Each single alphabet stands for what? What do you think? ATP. This is some kind of a chemical called adenine. And you will get to see again when we get to take a look at the DNA structure, and then the same structure of this chemical form called adenine will reappear. Okay, this adenine. This is called the phosphate. Phosphate. How many such phosphate do you see here? 3 here. So adenine triphosphate, ATP. Simple. Very uncreative way of naming any molecule. So what do you think? The ATP. Can you guess the structure of ATP then? Die, yes. Adenine die, that means one is missing. This one is gone. Yeah, phosphate. You break one phosphate away. Why? To release the energy. That's how you get the energy. So that's why ATP is being used as a standard form of very convenient energy. We usually conveniently refer this ATP as a cache, energy cache of life. So like cache means everywhere you can use this cache. Unlike any check, personal check, or credit card, sometimes you don't. We don't accept any Visa or MasterCard, sorry. Kind of cash is always welcome. So that's convenient, how convenient an ATP is. So like this, when ATP is being broken down into ADP, obviously energy will be released, and that energy is something that you need. But like I said, this ATP exactly behaves like a rechargeable battery, which means when ATP becomes ADP, then it can be recharged into ATP like this. So it is this kind of a circular interactions between ATP and ADP. Now, how do you regenerate? How do you regenerate the ATP from ADP? That's why you need what? Food. You break down your food, energy will be released, and then you provide the energy over here. Then it will make this. So is this anabolic or catabolic reaction? Going from ADP towards the ATP. Is this anabolic or catabolic? How do you distinguish catabolic versus anabolic? If it's something going the direction of a simpler, smaller, then it will be catabolic, breaking down. If it's going from simpler towards the more complex, so here, the difference, even though the difference is simply one small phosphate, still 2 versus 3, which one is more simple? This one is simpler, this one more complex. So, towards more complex, which means anabolic. So, you need energy. So, everything. All these different kind of chemical reaction, from now on, you look at it. Oh, is it going to more difficult? Okay, then, more complex, then it will be anabolic. So, it needs energy, you determine. Okay, so sometimes this a lot of chemical reaction, you get to see this particular vocabulary of hydrolysis. What is this? Hydrolysis. Here, this is two combined words. Hydro plus lysis. Hydrolysis. Lysis means breaking. Hydro, water. By adding water, you break it down. By adding water, you are breaking a particular chemical bond in between is what the hydrolysis. And it's very standardized, general way of a chemical reaction by which a specific chemical bond is broken, and as a result, energy is released. Get it? Okay. The hydrolysis is very standard, simple, relatively means simple chemical reaction, and result is a chemical bond is broken. But one requirement is hydrolysis means you need water. Okay. So you add water and then do something, then a particular chemical bond will be broken and energy will be released, and then you get to use this energy to do something else. That's hydrolysis. More difficult? Challenge? What do you think the opposite? So you have this result as a result of hydrolysis, but you change your mind. I want a refund. Hey, I changed my mind. I want a refund. You go to the store. I want to get a refund to become, once again, ATP. How do you get it? As long as you keep the what? Receipt, you will be able to get a refund. What do you think? So, this opposite. First question is, what would you call this opposite reaction? This reaction was hydrolysis, right? Then what would be the original? Try to restore the original. Then would you call what? The receipt. Why did I bring up this stupid, silly receipt thing? Here, receipt is this. You added water. So, do you still have a receipt? Yes, I do. Here is water. Okay. So, as long as you bring, like, what do you mean? Yeah, bring the water, right. Oh, really confused. As long as you provide this water to the original there at the counter, you will be able to get a refund. How? How do you provide this water that you're gonna? You took this water. You took this water from this in the event of this hydrolysis. So you still have some kind of like what? The signs, some signs of water you took it. So as long as you provide any water out, here is the water that I took, then you should be able to reconnect this chemical bond. This explanation doesn't seem popular. Everybody is getting frowned. What did he say? Okay. Importantly speaking, okay, the terminology is only. So the opposite type of reaction is called condensation. Okay. So ATP being hydrolyzed by adding water, if you restore them and you give up the water out of this two, then you will be able to reconnect. The chemistry itself, and maybe to some of you, maybe a little bit difficult to understand at first. So simply for now, simply try to associate these two contrasting opposite type of reaction. One is called hydrolysis, through which chemical bond is broken down. The other one is called condensation. Okay? So water is being added onto, not added onto. Water is being extracted from these two, so that this chemical bond can be restored. Should be correct way of explanation. Okay? Now, so what did I say about this catabolic reaction? Hey. Catabolic reaction is spontaneous by nature, right? Do you still agree? Any catabolic reaction is spontaneous. You don't need any energy. It will happen spontaneous. Just you let it go and it will happen. But in reality, any chemical reaction, even if that's a catabolic spontaneous reaction, cannot occur without the intervention of some magicians called, who are you? Magician with the enzyme. practically speaking. Yeah, this simple chemical reaction. So here, two organic molecules combined through a particular chemical bond. Actually, in real life example, this molecule happens to be sucrose, sweet sucrose. And there is a specific enzyme specifically can break down this sucrose into two individual components, which is one is glucose and the other one is fructose. So, but you don't have to worry about that real details, chemistry at this point. So this is obviously catabolic reaction, isn't it? The starting point is these two combined molecule. Then it's broken down. Chemical bond between these two components is broken. So obviously this is a catabolic reaction. That means, is it spontaneous or non-spontaneous? Spontaneous or non-spontaneous? Say it, please. Spontaneous, catabolic, breakdown chemical reaction, which is this compound, starting point component was more complex than the end result, end product, right? So this has to be catabolic, which is spontaneous. Does it require any energy input? Yes or no? No. So it can go automatically, spontaneously, but still this particular enzyme is needed practically to break down this. Why? It's a time. It will take forever. If you let it go without any enzyme, if you just simply let sit, okay, where somewhere in your cell or even on top of the desk, eventually it may happen, but it's just a matter of time. How long will it take? Probably something like 5,000 to 10,000 years. I'm not joking. It takes that long, 5,000 years. Can anyone have enough patience to wait until your sugar, sucrose, that your candy, full of candy containing sugar, okay, is broken down into individual thing? It will take 5,000 years. You will starve to death before it happens. Unless you have specific enzyme to take care of this, catalyze, it will happen in a matter of something like a milliseconds. 5,000 years versus milliseconds. That's the beauty of enzyme. Without enzyme, you cannot do anything in terms of this metabolism. No way. Okay? I shouldn't go any further because it's 4:15 by now. In other words, when am I be able to finish this chapter 1? But that's my problem, not your problem. So have a nice evening and see you on Wednesday.